welcome to the Ultimate PT podcast powered by the Training Room. My name is Nick, and today I'm joined by JC, Hasset and Claire, and we are going to be talking about the procedures that are going to be in place when gyms reopen following COVID-19. After that, we're then going to be also talking about the procedures and training principles that PTs are going to need to be following once they get back active in the gym. So sit back, enjoy, grab yourself a cuppa or a protein shake and listen away. Welcome to our podcast. So joined today with Hasset, Claire and our guest JC. So welcome all.
Hello.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. So we'll start with you, JC. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Jean-Claude Vacassan. I am 15 years in the industry, personal trainer, studio owner, gym owner, and I now still own and operate W10 in London, personal training gym, and I am the kind of general dog's body founder of the IFBA, which is a central support network for other similar independent training gyms up and down the country.
Perfect. Claire, let's go across to you.
I'm a tutor at the Training Room. Previous to that, I worked as a PT and specialised in GP referral and pre-post natal. And I'm happy to be here and take part in this podcast.
Good. Hasset, we've heard from you a few times before.
So just like Claire and obviously yourself, work with Training Room. Been with Training Room for about just over 4 years now. Working obviously as a tutor in the Midlands academies, helping run Nottingham, Birmingham, Peterborough for the company. Previously, sort of working as a PT, of course, alongside sort of physio. So that's why I am by trade a qualified physio. So a bit of prior work with semi-pro and pro clubs before going into the private education side of things. So
Excellent. Well, welcome along all. So today, what are we here to talk about? We're really looking at the gyms. Gyms hopefully reopening sometime soon. So we're going to be sort of chatting about the kind of what their procedures are and what things they might put into place, running alongside all of our COVID luck. And then after that, we're going to be looking at the PTs and how we think the PTs can kind of adapt their coaching and things to kind of work with these guidelines. So really we're sending all of our questions to you, JC, to start with.
No pressure.
You're the one in the know. We're told. So first of all, we had a little chat previously about this, but gyms reopening, what kind of things do you feel or know or see that might be put into place, do you think, once it's happened?
I think things will change between now and what it is effectively a month, not before the 4th of July. I think a week is a long time in the current climate. Guidelines are changing and things are kind of, the pace of things is changing quite a lot. So I think everybody's got to be prepared to continue to be flexible. But I think the UK Active have produced quite comprehensive guidelines for reopening for the sector, which I think do serve as a good basis for people. But I guess in practical terms, there's obviously the hygiene side of stuff, which I think is pretty obvious to everybody. What the social distancing measures will look like, who knows at this stage. That they are likely to change, I think. But sanitation and all the rest of it. I think there's some fairly obvious things. I think we talked about this the other day. I do believe that we are going to get some guidelines, but I think the interpretation of those guidelines is going to be quite important. I think whilst we all have to make sure that we do what we must do to keep our members and our teams safe and looked after, that there is going to be a point of diminishing returns from an operational and consumer trust standpoint. I'm not sure how many people are going to want to run into gyms, that are perspex screens everywhere and masks and, covered in sanitizer. And so whilst I think the hygiene factor is important, and definitely the hygiene theatre, as in, i.e. making customers believe that we are taking the necessary measures are important. I think there will be a fine line for many gyms hitting the sweet spot is probably the best way I can describe it. Because my fear for some gyms, certainly some of the ones that we work with, is that, counterintuitively, I think some of their extreme actions around some of this stuff might be the very thing that puts some people off. I think, and I guess we can come back to that, but I think overall it's going to be about consumer trust. I think, we've got a really, really big job to do, and regardless of the guidelines and regardless of what boxes we do or don't tick, it's going to be about trust. That's going to be about, making the customers believe that you and your business are the right place to go back to. Because there's going to be lots of facets to that. Some of that's going to be the obvious, communication channels. Some of that's going to be the things you did during the lockdown period. But I do think largely a lot of it's going to be about what you did before the lockdown period, because it's going to be very difficult for many businesses to unpick maybe some of the bad habits and things that they were in prior to this. So that there are a lot of moving parts, but I think ultimately it's about building trust.
I agree, and I think when we spoke before and things, we talked about the experience as well that each individual is going to get from that, and whether actually it's a good sound point to start with. So for example, I know you mentioned before that you wanted to, looking forward to going out to have sushi and things like that. But if you're surrounded by perspex screens and have to wear masks all the time and things like that, the whole experience just changes. So, how do you think that side of it will be managed by the clubs?
I think regardless of the guidelines that we were given, and they are going to be guidelines, because I don't think they're going to be, as granular as some people are hoping they're going to be. There's going to be you're going to have to use your noodle. There's going to be some common sense required in all of this, and we can't give everybody, a set of EOPs for every single facet of the business. It's going to come down to the interpretation, and ultimately your customers are going to tell you whether or not you're adhering to the guidelines or not, and they will vote with their feet. And you could tick every box and still get it wrong. So I think, from my perspective, and I saw it with some gyms in the US, because they opened earlier through the let's call it the COVID cycle. And you had gyms with, clearly marked out 2 meter squared boxes of black and white tape, and perspex screens, and staff in Bane style masks, and it was sanitizer everywhere, and one-way systems in the gym. And I just think, as a consumer myself, not just in fitness but across the board, I just think there come a point where if it felt oppressive in that way, and it felt like a war zone, I would probably just ask myself whether it was appropriate for me to be in that environment. And I think if we go over the top, I think we're in danger of putting the customers off.
It's interesting what you said about the experience, because in my work before, working with GP referral and with a lot of senior citizens, the social side of it is really important to them. And when I was thinking about the gyms reopening and the support that they need in terms of it's a community, how it will affect them with the social distancing and the screens and abdominal in a group and go off to Pilates together and then for a coffee, it's going to really change that experience for them. So it's interesting what you're saying about, is it going to be more like a war zone, how that will affect those types of customers.
Well, I think we're quite lucky in lots of ways that we are one of the last to reopen, because had we been one of the original the first sectors to reopen, whilst I understand all the commercial realities and whatever else, there's been largely, and there have been some people who will have fallen through the cracks, but largely there's been some pretty robust support for businesses. And I think, being at the end of the timeline is probably in our favour, because by the time we come back to opening, some parts of life will have come back to normal, and shops will be open, restaurants will be open, some of the schools and children will have come back. Some of the government messaging will have to have changed, because there's some economic realities. They're going to have to put a bit more of a feel good. It's not the stay at home or save lives thing is slowly going to it is already evolving, and it will have to get more and more positive. So I think consumer confidence will improve, but I think certainly for the gyms, that the community, the sub channel, if you like, of the industry that I work with and represent, which is the independent training gyms, CrossFit and kind of W10 style gyms, that is all about community. They are based on community, and I think that's going to be the thing that takes those types of gyms forwards, and it's going to help those gyms on the other side. And I think gyms that maybe didn't have that in the first place, I think that there is going to be, that it was more of a transactional relationship, I think it's going to be far more difficult.
I think it's also a good time for gyms themselves to almost reset. There's some of those ones that may have been struggling or may have not quite right, have got that time now to go, right, let's rethink this and let's go. And how do those gyms that are successful kind of continue to be?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think all of us have probably got what could be described as a once in a lifetime opportunity to erase our mistakes. And we've got the perfect opportunity to do it. So I think if there were things that, because I think through this period, what all of us has done, and be that, personal reflection, business reflection, we've had the opportunity to pause and take stock. And I think for all businesses that were perhaps doing some things they now realise we're not helping them, they've got the opportunity to set that right. I think if you were too far behind the curveball coming into this, I do think it's going to be difficult to unpick some of that. Because this, ultimately, in my view, all this has been is an accelerator. If you were struggling before, it's going to speed that up. If you were, it's just if you were good before, I think ultimately at the other end of this, once we've navigated what will be a choppy few months, it will speed that up. So I do believe this is going to be an accelerator. So I do think it's the perfect opportunity for all business to take stock, take a look at themselves, and iron out some of the creases. I think also, from some personal perspective, some of the questions we're asking are not, how do we maintain social distancing? How do we survive the next few months? Some of the kind of what I might describe as sort of back foot or holding pattern plays. Also, we've got the opportunity to, how do we get on the front foot? Okay, how do we change the model to make ourselves more profitable? Where can we cut some costs? Can we go from 3 to 1 to 4 to 1, or 4 to 1 to 6 to 1, or can we make some changes operationally? That actually that improve the business, that make us more commercially viable, and make some changes that maybe in the real world, in inverted commas, we might have had more friction from our existing customer base to do. So we're definitely looking at an opportunity to change that, and we will be making some changes. The principles won't stay the same, and nothing fundamentally will change. But there's lots of things happening, both from an operational standpoint and also product development standpoint. We at W10, like lots of other businesses that we're working with, will come back to the table as a 2.0, as an improved version of what they were going into this.
And I think that makes a difference for the individuals as well. So the people who are running those businesses, if you are of that mindset of, okay, let's look at the opportunities this has created, then you're going to push yourself further. If you sit back and think this is going to kill us off as such, then I think it will. You just look at the internet, these sorts of Zoom calls and things like that, how much they've developed over that time, and how more people have become much more acceptable to it. If I said I'd take my mum for example, if I said to her, in January, we're going to do an online class or we're going to do things like that, she would go, oh, I don't know how it works, I don't know how to do it. Whereas now she's like, yeah, let's do it, great. People I think are just much more susceptible about this type of training, so it gives another avenue for PTs, gyms and things to do more.
Yeah, I wholeheartely agree. From our perspective, we've done what everybody else has done and gone online and done Zoom and put together a timetable around it. And we've had to eat our fair share of the shit sandwich. I think everybody in the industry has had to do that. And some of the things we don't have control over. Everybody's lost members, everybody's been hurt, and that's probably slowly declined as well over the months as people kind of fatigued of it, and people who were effectively in-person people who liked community and the face-to-face stuff have been funneled online, and it will work for some and not for others. But we've massively developed our content and media strategy and quality of. We've got a whole new online training platform which will be a revenue stream. On the other side of this. It's a revenue stream currently because it's where our clients are, our members are in a holding pattern. But on the other side of this, when the gym reopens, that will run in parallel. We will have a virtual location. We're going to keep some of that on, because some of the questions, what do you want to do more of on the other side of this? What do you want to do less of? What do you want to change? So we'll be doing more of that stuff. And I think there's an opportunity for operators, all operators, but certainly operators in training gyms like ours. I think the training part of it is obviously important because online is currently being viewed as a sort of cheaper, slightly less sexy alternative. But the reality for some people, and my wife would be one of them, that it's just much more flexible, it's much more accessible, it's in home, and for some people it's better. So, arguably it should be more expensive, not cheaper. I think there is going to be, as there were in the bricks and mortar gyms, there's going to be a race to the bottom on price temporarily whilst the consumer, we've all done as an industry a very good job of devaluing online coaching. So for me, there's 3 levels of online service. There's kind of on demand, or a digital wraparound type product for gyms, which isn't necessarily a profit center, where there's some express workouts and some support and stuff that wraps around the bricks and mortar product. There's an on-demand level, which is, think Peloton and kind of, I don't know, 10 to 20 quid. There's online programming, that could be done in groups, or individually, and at a different cost, which the industry was pretty familiar with before this. Now we've got online coaching. So the product really should, in my view, should be exactly the same as that one which you provide in the gym. Same coaches, same standards. Some people are not going to turn up on time. Some people are going to be scruffy. Some people are not going to engage. It's going to be the same problems going forward that we have in the bricks and mortar world. Some people are going to do it better than others. But what we've done collectively is kind of, drag the price down so that the consumers you think they should be paying less for those services. And, really, depending on how you want to kind of to frame it, you could argue it could be more expensive for some people because it's a more flexible product which they can use more freely, which makes it better in inverted commas for them. So we will certainly be looking at continuing our online coaching offering, because that's just an extension of what we do in the gym. That's what we specialize in. We don't specialize in online programming, and we don't want to compete in on demand because we can't, basically, but we can be the best at online coaching because it's the same as the gym. It's just done through a different platform, through a different medium. But I think the biggest shift for us and the biggest opportunity for us is to expand our 360 offering to the clients. So, when lockdown happened in the first week, we canvassed our clients and said, look, how are you feeling? What are you afraid of? What's the implications of what's going on? And all of the things that came back were nothing to do with training. It was all routine, structure, accountability, community, mental health type stuff. And the support that they've wanted largely has been around structure, routine, those things. The training bit is obviously important. It's the bedrock of what we provide. But the where we will be expanding our services, and where I think the major opportunity for a lot of personal trainers and a lot of independent gym owners and the larger gym owners, but I'll stick to the ones that I'm qualified to talk about. There's a huge opportunity to expand our services to increase value for people. That's not just about 7 movement patterns and HIIT training.
I'm a big believer in something good comes out of something bad, and I really like what you're saying about the opportunities that come out of this, and it will make PTs and businesses think more outside the box and expanding it into well-being and looking at the bigger picture in terms of mental health rather than just getting that person in the gym and beasting them. And I think that's really good going forward for businesses, and not only to correct their mistakes, but to see what is working and how to move that forward as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that stuff existed pre this, but maybe we just didn't take time to stop and think about it and how we integrate it. Yeah, and I do think we're going to have to be careful because we're going to have to stay in lanes. Look, the industry's always had NLP and mindset and whatever phrases systems and phrases we want to use. They've always existed. But we've got to make sure that we don't start playing the 30-second expert game and stepping into fields and areas that maybe we're not qualified to move into. But we can still provide base information. We can still partner with lots of people, which is from a piggyback marketing standpoint for businesses and local collaborations, or national, international collaborations now. It could be huge. So I think I think it is a huge opportunity. That said, I do understand, and I think we've all been through. It's been a time where it's been difficult for people to manage their energy levels and to sometimes to see those things and to stay anchored in thinking like that. But I think for those who come back to the table, certainly those who've done, and it's not a productivity challenge. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So, I have to sort of caveat by saying that, because you didn't get up every day at 5 a.m. and you didn't do all these things doesn't make you a bad person. We're all under the pump. But we have had the opportunity to a greater or lesser degree, depending on people's personal circumstances. Those of us with kids and dogs and working partners and stuff are going to have less time, not more time through this thing, than people who are on their own and who are single and can kind of get their head down and just work. So I think to degrees we've all had the opportunity to improve ourselves, to improve our teams, which I think is for those of us who run teams is a bit maybe that's gone largely missed, because furlough's been great, but I just hope not too many people have missed the opportunity to get under the skin of their staff. And when did we last have 4 or 5 months to develop our teams? Either our internal processes, products, core values, and revisit some of that, but also from gaps in our understanding, our knowledge, our products. But it's a huge opportunity that those who've taken it, I think there's going to be some economic realities on the other side of this. But I think for those who take those opportunities over the next 6 to 18 months, there could be a bit of a catapult effect.
Absolutely. I think you again, another good point of linking organisations as well. Using this time to link those organisations. I think a lot of goals and things like that from clients now may change, or at least in the short term change. Humans are quick to forget, aren't they? So I think in the short term might change. So to more lifestyle type goals, that mental health, all those other aspects, even things like mobility and just that general health goals, I think are going to increase rather than I've got a holiday coming up in 4 weeks' time, I want to get ready for it. By having those links with all the different areas that can pull together, I think is a great benefit.
Yeah, I agree, but it doesn't cease to amaze me. Some personal trainers still over this time we've sort of prodded at clients to say, now you've got more time, you've got no excuses. If you're not losing weight, you should be able to look at yourself and what are your priorities. That's not the messaging we should be giving off, in my view, at any time. Let alone a time of what is effectively a time of where pressure's been applied to people. I think some people, some businesses, some individuals, whether knowingly or unknowingly, so we must be fair to people. I don't think anyone's kind of have either massively enhanced their reputation and have taken the opportunity to do some of these things that we've discussed and presented themselves in a way that clients will enjoy on the other side of this. There are others maybe that have done the opposite, who maybe have made some short-term plays and had some short-term communications and products of panic and anxiety, which we've all been subject to during this period. But I think 90% of the people that I speak to and things that I see, I think the industry as a whole, certainly the training gym community and the personal training community, have largely, from the lens that I've looked through, have been largely productive, and I'm quite excited, cautiously optimistic on everybody's behalf, for what awaits on the other side.
Right. So what? Just kind of going back to the procedures, things like that, because when we spoke before, I thought you had some really great procedures about how you're going to potentially enroll some of these things out into your gym. Can you go through some of those, or are you trying to keep them to yourself?
No, I can't.
Great ideas.
I can't remember what great ideas I put forward, but
even simple things you mentioned before about the way you put in front of the hand washing and stuff.
We basically said, look, there's going to be some guidelines we have to follow, and we have to keep our staff and our customers safe according to guidelines, and that's a non-negotiable. But there's also going to be a bit of hygiene theatre around this that people are going to want to see. Are going to want to see that you've made the effort, because you might not get it all right, but so long as people believe that you've done everything you can to do so, they'll get it. No, I don't think anybody can come into this and say we're going to be perfect, because there's going to be nobody's done this before. So I think it's daft to present yourself in that way, because you're destined to fail. So the first thing that we've done is we have communicated every step of the way with our clients what we're doing. So, and we've got them on board. So we've worked obviously to dates which we've sort of said we have to flex, but this one is the 6th of July. And we produced a pre-opening mobilization plan for the gym. So we're going to paint on this date, we're going to sanitize on this date, we're going to move equipment on this date, we're going to do these things. And we put it into a timeline working back from the 6th of July, telling clients that we might have to flex, and said, look, have we missed anything? What else would you do during this period? Now, truth be told, we're not really asking, we're more showing. Yeah, but we have had some feedback from clients that has been fantastic. Most of which is, you lot are awesome, you've done a great job, I can't believe the depth at which you're going to. But some of it's been practical stuff that they want to see happen, which is some easy wins. So I think the first things first is our communication has been really good, and it's been two-way. From the dot, we've said to clients, look, we need you to help us with this. It's not a dictatorship. You have to support us. You have to help us get this right. We can't do it on our own. And I think that's been a massive thing. But some practical stuff for us. We you know, what we effectively did was start at the front door, and I just said, look, let's walk the customer journey. You know, start at, you know, so we've got a pavement bit, and when we walk in, there's a couple of weeds poking out. You know, get rid. You know, when people come to the front door, you know, how do they get in? Have they got to touch the handle? You know, can we leave the doors open? Is there a sensor on the door that can let people in? When they walk down the stairs, you know, what they're going to be greeted with. So there's a digital screen for us, and we want to try and keep it light-hearted, you know, because otherwise it is a bit of a bind. And I think everybody at this point is tired of it. You know, no matter how positive we all present ourselves, and we should, it is bloody exhausting. I think everyone's through it. So it's trying to bring some light-heartedness to the table. So, you know, at the bottom of our stairs, it, you know, welcome, you know, before you get stuck in, please wash your hands, hit style, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 2 rounds. And everybody will do what you've just done and kind of go, yeah, it was funny, you know, I'll wash my hands. And we're trying to make a joke out of it. We've gotten rid of, you know, the towels, the tea towels that embarrassingly we used in the cafe area. So now that's now kind of paper towels on a touch sensor. The doors are on open. You can open with your feet, not with your hands. The toilet rolls were on rolls. They're now inside. They're housed inside, so you don't have to touch the toilet roll. We got some posh toilet seats that whip the thing around, so you know you don't touch anyone else's bum, and all the rest of the stuff, like small things like that are going to have a huge impact on the customer journey. We've taken out the towels. Brackets, that's great for us because it cost us a bloody fortune and we've got the excuse to take it out, but we've been able to remove the towels and we've replaced that with some advertising stuff. So I think there's we did the customer walkthrough. Now clearly, as a gym owner, independent gym owner, we can control that pretty well. Most of our staff haven't been furloughed. They're in, you know, we're talking them through our operating procedures, so people are going to come back and it's going to be fairly slick operationally, I hope, because we can control the environment. Maybe as a personal trainer in bigger gym environments, it's more difficult to control, but you know, the gym will definitely help you control that. But I guess my advice would be to anyone, just make sure you understand what the journey looks like, and as much as possible you can influence if you feel you need to. And then, you know, we've made some practical changes, you know, in terms of how we operate. So we are going to, you know, things like, I'm seeing all these taped out floors, and, you know, we're going to put, you know, small decals on the floor, so circular vinyl size of a football. They'll just have our logo on. We're not going to put gnarly messages on and keep 2 meters apart. And people know how that works. I mean, they know what it'll be. Everyone's been going to the supermarket, so we keep it subtle, but, you know, done. And we're going to make a tweak to the way that we operate our model, just to try and give people more space. Now, we're pretty fortunate that our model, you know, the way that we train people, has social distancing built in, because it's small group personal training. It's, you know, by appointment only. You know, all the things that we're not really going to have to break stride the IFBA community of gyms and gyms like that, because it's small group training, and it basically all of the guidelines are already built in, you know, by luck, not by COVID design. But I think all the bits that we've spent our time and energy on are around building out our kind of digital platform for customers, and then some of the hygiene theatre, because there's going to be no guidelines about making sure your doors are opened with feet and all the rest of it. But that's not the bit I'm interested in. I'm interested in the customer experience, because that's the bits that A, they'll notice, and B, they'll talk about.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, right at the very start, it's building that trust, isn't it? You know, and on our chat the other day, again, something you said there was, it's better to have your clients or your customers come back and kind of stay than come back and leave. So, you know, make sure everything's kind of ready for them. If it needs to delay, you know, if you're thinking your gym's not quite ready yet, then maybe push it back a little bit if you can afford to, you have to, but make sure like you say, that experience is good for them.
You're better off getting it right from sort of the start. I think reflection is a big part, even what we're doing at Training Room, in terms of just reflecting from a learner's perspective. or the customer journey, essentially. I think people that are being proactive about looking at the customer journey have got a really good shout of coming out really positively on the other end once it's all finished, and using the time to reflect, essentially. So definitely a good thing to do.
But in reality, those rules, those principles, probably shouldn't use the word rules, but those things were what we should have been doing pre this.
Yeah,
100%.
All that's happened is that everyone's sensitivities to all this stuff has been heightened. So for businesses, and I can only talk about my own, these are some of the behaviors we were demonstrating prior to this. This isn't a new way of thinking or a new way of doing business. This has always been ingrained in the way that we've approached what we do, because we charge a premium price for a premium service, and therefore we hold ourselves accountable to these small details. But one of the things I think we all, certainly because I think it's different for the larger operators where they've got so many people coming in and management teams and large infrastructures. They really, really need to kind of make sure that everything is systemized to the nth degree. And I think we all do need to do that. But for the smaller businesses amongst us, we can take the time to be a bit more innovative and to have some sort of the lighter touch points, if you like, with the customers, where that's where the gold is. It's not the big bits, because they're expected.
Yeah.
What can you do that's unexpected that will be remarkable in every sense?
Cool. That's really good.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed that. So we get some good information on there. I think what we'll do is we'll leave it there for us. And I think you've given us as the PT side of it a lot to kind of think about and chat about. So thank you for that. But it's been absolute pleasure for you joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed it.
No problem at all. We'll leave you now to get to that golf course.
and
Enjoy.
hack around. Thanks very much, guys.
And that's the end of another podcast. Thank you very much to JC for joining us. Very, very insightful as to what to expect as the gyms reopen. Thank you to Hassit and Claire as well. Stay tuned to look out for our next podcast. Follow us on our Instagram pages and our Facebook pages. Look out for our podcasts on YouTube and also to download. So plenty of ways to look and listen. Have a great rest of the day.